Hello, my friends, and happy Thursday and happy New Year. It's 2025, and we just got through the holidays, Christmas and Hanukkah, and New Year, of course. And the next holiday is Valentine's Day. So we're going to be making heart suncatchers today. These are my whimsical heart suncatchers. You knew what I meant. So, and it's a live video, so if I misspeak, you know about it. And these are really fun. They're actually two very distinct styles. They're both very easy. And I'm going to show you how to make both styles. And then of course you can make like a schmillion variations on the two styles that I show you today. So let's get started. So I don't have the names for these styles, and perhaps you can help me come up with names. So we are going to make a heart. Believe it or not, these two hearts start out just about exactly the same. And technique-wise, they're very, very similar. And then I also have these two hearts, which you can tell that they're very similar. So again, I don't have a specific name for this heart, so you can help me come up with a name. And all together, they're called heart suncatchers, and that is what we're calling the kit. And the kit makes exactly what you see in front of me. And this is very fun. You know, I find this technique very relaxing, very zen. I love wire work, and I can't wait to share these with you.
Fonda says, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Fonda, and happy Thursday to you, my friend.
Jeline says, hello.
Hi, Jeline.
Fonda says, I ordered my kit already.
Woohoo! Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy making these.
Trudy says, hi, everyone.
Hi, Trudy.
And Althea says, hi, everyone.
And hello, Althea. Okay, ladies. So as I mentioned, there are two different techniques that I will be sharing with you today. And there's a little bit of a variation as far as sizes and wire. And I will talk about that as we explore each of the variations. And I'm going to start out with this heart. So, I don't know, I wish we had a name to refer to them, but we'll just wing it for now. And this is a heart that you can make symmetrical, as you can see, or asymmetrical. And I'm going to show you a little bit of strategy to do either one.
Maya says, I have the kit, the last year's kit that I just pulled out, and we'll try to make one as I watch.
Oh, fantastic, Maya. That's wonderful. So I want you to know that, yes, I did make these either last year or possibly even the year before. I possibly skipped last year. Of course, the wire you have is very similar. I don't frankly remember what wire you might have in a previous kit, but technique-wise, it's going to be very similar. And as I said, as long as you know the technique, there are just so many different variations that you can come up with. So I am going to move this guy right here, and we're going to start with this one. This is the symmetrical version of this heart. And this heart starts out with a V. So I cut myself some wire. I think this is 12 inches. And by the way, I'm taking the guesswork out for you. So the samples that I have actually really kept track of exactly how much wire I used. And we created a template. So I'm just going to show you the template. So this is what the template looks like. And it gives you exactly the amount of wire that I used per each heart. Also, these are actually the exact size here. I'll show you. These are the exact size that my samples are in. And when you get your kit, you can most certainly vary the sizes, you can vary the designs. But this is just a really nice reference. And of course, as we continue, I will fill in the blanks because you know this is just a template. It doesn't tell you all the steps, but between the video and the template, you will know exactly how to make each one of these and more.
Allie says, hi, this is so cool.
Thank you so much, Allie.
And sends a heart.
Oh, thank you. And I am sending a heart to all of you.
And Althea says, Queen of Hearts kit for a name.
Oh my gosh. You know what? You're so clever. I so wish we would have thought of that. It would have been a great name. And perhaps when we make a new something or other with hearts, we just might use that. Although this one already has a name. It's called Whimsical Suncatchers. I know, it's a little bit pedestrian compared to Queen of Hearts.
Valentine is in there, in the title too.
That's true, that's true. So yeah, perhaps next time. And thank you so much. So, but you know, when I was asking for names, I was more asking for names of the styles of hearts. So, I'm starting, this is a shorter piece, just to show you the technique. So I'm starting with a 12-inch length of 16 gauge wire. So I folded it in half, and since I'm making a heart that is going to be symmetrical, I'm folding it pretty much exactly in half, so that each side is about 6 inches. And now I'm going to pull the two sides of the wire apart like this. And we can leave this V as kind of a sharp V, or we can unbend it a little bit if you want a little bit less sharp of a V. We can just shape it however we want. So now we are going to make the spirals, these little spirals right here.
Kathy K says, hearts aplenty.
I love it. You guys are coming up with such great names. That's awesome, you guys. So, so I'm going to start out by making just a loop at the end of the wire. So I'm just using one end of the wire and making a loop. Can you guys see my loop right there? And I will do the same thing on the other side of the wire. You know what? I think I'm going to just cut off the very, very end of the wire. I didn't like it was a little bit jagged, so I chose to cut it off. And I'm going to do the same thing. And you know, I'm not measuring. I mean, I'm trying to make these fairly similar in size, but we will continue course correcting as we go. And you know what? Oh, I do have my chain nose pliers right here. For a second, I misplaced it. So now I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers. And this is a large open spiral. So unlike some of the other spirals we make, we can just hold it through the center of the spiral, and this is such an easy way to go about making it larger. And of course, I'm controlling the wire. We are working with dead soft wire, so it's like butter, ladies. It's like so easy, and it goes very, very quickly. And I might re-grip it at the side of the spiral and just continue. Can you guys see how very, very quickly this is coming together? Super, super easy. So because of course I'm going to demo multiple hearts, I sized it down a little bit so that it's a little bit less wire to wrangle. But you get the idea. You can do this with a smaller piece of wire, with a larger piece of wire. So now we're getting down to kind of the nitty gritty. And you see what I'm doing? I am just using my fingers to wrangle the wire. And you know, your fingers are really the most gentle tool that you have. You're never going to, well, I mean, you could, but it's very unlikely that you're going to break the wire with your fingers. And look at how incredibly simple it is. You see how I'm doing a little pulling, a little pushing, and I have a heart. So sometimes you get like a little bump, maybe the shape is not quite perfect. We can always, and we'll talk a little bit more about shaping as we go. So maybe I want to push it out a little bit on this side and make it a little bit more rounded. And I'm just doing that with my flat nose pliers. You see how I'm just holding on to it and doing a little pushing, a little pulling, and there you go. I just made it way worse. Not a problem. It looks to me like this side just needs to get a little shorter. And okay, this is actually looking pretty good. So what do you think? So you get the idea. Here, of course, I started with a lot more wire, so we ended up with a little bit more of the spiral and a larger heart altogether. So just for fun, we're going to refer to the template and see. So it looks like I started out with 18 inches of 16 gauge wire versus 12 inches. So you can decide what size heart you're going to make, whether you want more spiral, less spiral, but this gives you a little visual. So this is 12 inches, this is, what did I just say, 18 inches? Yes, 18 inches. And you can go somewhere in between, but the technique is always going to be the same.
Kathy K says, kind of looks like a frame for a whimsical owl, and love the spirals.
Oh, thank you so much. I love the whimsical owl idea also. You never know, we might make a whimsical owl one day. Okay, ladies, so before we start embellishing, let's explore the shape just a little more. So I cut myself another length of wire, and this time, this is 15 inches of wire. So, for example, so we'll move this guy, and we're going to focus on an asymmetrical heart. So if we want to create something like this is actually literally the same technique, except that this side is twice as long as this side when you start out. So I'm starting with a 15-inch length of wire this time, and we are going to measure 5 inches from the end. So there is our 5 inches, and I'm just going to hold on to this until I bend it. And using my flat nose pliers, I'm just going to give it a nice sharp bend. So just as before. Now remember, this is the same technique. We're just exploring possibility. What else can we do with this very same technique? So again, we have the V at the bottom. And then you know what? We're going to call these two hearts the V hearts because that's how they start out. So the V hearts always start out with a V. And now I'm pulling apart the V a little bit. This is just a little bit too hard to do with my fingers. And so now I have one side that is 5 inches and the other side is 10 inches. So very similarly, if you look at my template, it looks like I started out with 21 inches of 14 gauge wire. So can you guess, this is for bonus points, ladies, can you guess how long this side started out, how many inches, and how many inches was this side? So let's do a little math, shall we? Okay, so now I am going to again start making spirals, and I'm going to start with my long side. And put your answers in the comments, by the way, for those bonus points. So I'm starting out by making a loop with my round nose pliers, and there's my loop. Now, if I want to, I can cut off the very end, but given that we're making a very open spiral, if you don't cut off the very end of the loop, that is okay too. And just as before, we're just going to hold on with our chain nose pliers, and we're going to make that nice open spiral. And if it's not quite forming really perfectly, it's okay. I will show you how to course correct.
Cheryl says, hi everyone. Oh, how I love your Suncatcher kits.
Oh, thank you so much, Cheryl. Cheryl, right?
Yes.
And yes, and thank you so much. Yes. All right, ladies. So here's my one side, and we can always curve it a little bit longer. But for now, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm just going to leave it exactly the way it is. You know, I don't know. I just noticed there is this little bit of black right here. I have no idea what it is. It was the very end of the spool. So I'm doing this with like a little remnant. So don't worry, you're not getting anything with black junk on it. Okay, ladies. So, and what? No guessers? So I'm just going to tell you, my large heart, I guess nobody gets bonus points. You know what? I get bonus points.
It's like one of those math problems. Like Jimmy is traveling to the candy store at 5 miles an hour.
Yes, that's right. Okay, one train starts out. Anyway, if you start out for a heart like this, if you start out just as per my template, if you start out with 21 inches, and you want a heart of this shape, remember this side is twice as long as this side, so clearly this side would be 7 inches, this side would be 14 inches. And similarly, if one side is 5 inches, then the other side is 10 inches.
Lori says, hi, Irina, Tony, and everyone.
Hi, Lori.
And sends a heart.
And thank you so much, Lori. I'm sending you a heart as well, and my heart. Okay, ladies, so we have our big spiral on one side, and now we're going to make a very small spiral, almost kind of just a suggestion of a spiral. And you know, on these, I just used the chain nose pliers. I guess I just like the look of it when it's not quite a round loop on one end. But you know, you can start with a chain nose, or you can start with a round nose. do it however you want to. So starting out with just half of the wire on one side of whatever we're using on the other side, it doesn't really give us a whole lot of wire for a spiral. And that's okay. We're prepared for that. That's exactly how we planned. So I'm not really making a full spiral. So we could stop right here, but to me this seems like just a little bit imbalanced. So remember when I said let's stop, and we can always continue with making the spiral later. And you can make the spiral the way I showed with the chain nose, or you can use your flat nose, whatever makes you happy really. So here's our heart. So this is perfectly fine. However, if we wanted to make it a little bit more rounded like this on this side, I feel like it's not quite as rounded as I would want it to be. Again, I'm just simply using my fingertips to shape it. And very often for these larger pieces, your fingers is all you need as you are reshaping. I mean, look, I just gave it a little squeeze, gave it a little pull, and all of a sudden it's nicely rounded out. Maybe I want to make it a little bit more squat like this. I could do that. So just play around with the wire, and it's all very tiny little adjustments like this, for example, and then maybe I would open up this side of the heart so you can see how many ways we can reshape it.
Ellen says, hi, Irina and everyone.
Hi, Ellen, and thanks for joining us. Okay, ladies, so that is how you make the heart that starts with a V, and I've just decided that I'm going to call it the V heart. So once you have started, what do we do next? We are going to be using 24 gauge wire to create a pattern of beads. So I'm going to cut myself a piece of 24 gauge wire, and we are going to do a little embellishing. But this is going to be, obviously I'm not going to embellish the entire piece. I am just going to show you how to do it and also do a little show and tell as well.
Allie says, is it possible to make the spirals with smaller bail making pliers, or do you need the jumbo or the large ones?
Allie, actually, I'm not even using the bail making pliers for this. I'm just using my regular round nose pliers. You can absolutely start your spirals with the small pliers, with the small bail making pliers. You couldn't start the spirals with jumbo, so definitely no jumbo. But yes, you could most certainly use either the small or the medium bail making pliers, because they're also on the smaller side. Okay, ladies, so let's get a few beads and we will do a little wire beading. Oh, and I just spilled them everywhere. Not a problem. Okay, so to make this heart, this is what I did. I left a little wire just kind of hang down, and in fact we'll just mark a little spot right there, and we are going to start just coiling around the wire. And the first few coils are just going to be very casual, and I don't even have beads on them. So the purpose of our first few coils are simply to put the two sides of the heart together and fix them so that they're not moving. And just a couple of coils are going to be enough. And then I'm going to use the longer side of my wire, and I'm going to pick up, you know what, maybe I'll make a couple of coils just without any beads, and this just gets my wire a little bit further away from the center, okay, because I don't want to put a bead right in the center of the heart. So let's make it 3 coils. And you know what, I'm being a little casual with this because the strategy here can vary. And I'll talk, once I show you how to wire a bead, I will also talk about the strategy of starting and where you start and so forth. So I'm going to use my fingers to hold the bead in place clearly. I just put the bead on my 24 gauge wire. I'm going to hold it in place and make a coil, a full coil, like this.
Fonda is wondering, can you hammer the hearts to harden them before putting on the beads?
You know what, Fonda? You're so clever. You actually just preempted me. Although I could have talked about hammering first, but you're absolutely right. I do have my block right here and my hammer. And so let's do a little coiling and then we'll talk about hammering. So clearly with this one, I'm not hammering, and maybe with another one, I might hammer. And I do like hammering the hearts before you coil, but not everybody does. So we'll just explore both possibilities. So I just put a bead on here. I made a coil, and so it's a full coil. It's really more like a coil and a half. And now I'm going to pick up another bead, and I'm going to make another full coil again. And you can see I'm making them very deliberately. And I'm trying to make them fairly tight so that they really hold in place really nicely. So you can see a little bit of a pattern emerging. So here are my 2 beads. Let's do one more. So here's our 3rd bead, and you can really see how incredibly simple this is. Now, in the meantime, we have this little end of our wire, and this end is going to go around the spiral part. So I'm just going to go around maybe once or twice, and then I'm going to start adding beads.
Lori's wondering what size are the beads, please?
Thank you for asking, Lori. These are 6/0 seed beads, and also included in the kit are rondelles, and these are 3 by 4 millimeters. So, same pattern, ladies. I'm not really going to do a whole lot of this because it's literally the same. So, so the long end of the wire is going to go all the way down to the V. The short end of the wire is going to go around the spiral. And if you're noticing that my end is not quite long enough, you're right. And that's because I only cut it for the purpose of the demo. However, I will talk about the specific lengths of wire that I used. Okay, but wait, there's more. there's this entire side that we have not yet addressed. So what are we going to do with this side? We are going to cut a whole separate piece of wire. And again, this is 24 gauge wire. And we are going to separately, I'm cutting the wire right now, and we're going to separately attach it to this end. So to attach the wire, what I like to do is go in between the two sides. It just gives me an easy way to anchor. And we're going to make a little snug coil. Again, maybe 3-4 times. And now I no longer need this little end. It was just for the purpose of anchoring. And now I am going to cut off any excess wire. And of course, we are going to tuck it in using our chain nose wire. So you tuck it in always towards wherever the wire meets, never to the outside, and certainly never to the front or the back so that it doesn't poke you.
Lori says, I love hearts.
Oh yeah, hearts are lovely. And it's really about the message too of the heart. Okay, ladies, so now I am going to start making the very same pattern. So I'm holding onto the bead and we're going to go through the heart just once. So you make one full coil and pick up the next bead. So for now, I'm just holding the beads in place. And of course, once you form the coil, the bead stays exactly where it's supposed to be. So the 6 OC beads have a larger hole, so it's going to be, as you work with them, they're going to move a little bit more. But at the same time, it also makes it very simple to pick them up. The rondelles are going to have a smaller hole, which means, well, you just have to work a little harder picking them up. But at the same time, in a way, it's a little bit easier because they stay in place a little bit more readily. So this is the pattern. That is all there is to the pattern. So let's talk a little bit about the lengths of my wire. So this is something I actually did not include in the template because it would have been a little bit convoluted. It would have been confusing. I think now that you've seen how I'm doing this, it's going to be a lot easier to understand when I talk about the different lengths of the wire. And as you can see, this is the asymmetrical heart. And so here, for example, I give you the total length of the 24 gauge wire. So total length of the 24 gauge wire is going to be 72 inches. And I know it sounds like so much wire. And you're not necessarily going to use the entire 72 inches, but believe me, you will use almost the entire length. And it's always nice to have a little bit extra, something to hold on to as you're coiling. So let's talk about the specifics. As I mentioned, this length is going to be, and you kind of have to use common sense too. If your spiral is not quite as large as mine, then perhaps you don't need as much, or perhaps you need more. So all I'm telling you is how much I used. So for my spiral, my short end, this end right here, this took a foot. 12 inches of 24 gauge wire. And you remember, this is attached to this end of the wire that covers the larger side of the heart, and that side was 34 inches. So this entire length of wire was 46 inches. And then we have this side of the wire, which is 24 inches. So 24 and 36, that is what, 60? I
Yep.
believe. Yes, so that's 60 inches. And again, even though I only use 60 inches, it's so nice to have those extra few inches at the ends, because you're going to need to hold on to the end of the wire. Otherwise, it becomes really awkward. So there you go. That accounts for the whole 72 inches. Do you have any questions before I go on to the next heart? Do you have any questions about the V hearts? So these are the two hearts that start with the V. It's this one, which is asymmetrical, or this one, which is symmetrical. So in the meantime, let me also say, if you're working on the symmetrical heart, so in my case, it's a smaller heart. It doesn't take quite as much wire. So what I did, in fact, you know what? I am going to give you a little mini demo for this one.
How did you do the loop?
Yeah, that's my mini demo.
Oh, got it.
So, so for this one, I only used 48 inches of wire. And again, 48 inches is probably a little bit of an overkill. However, it's better to have a little bit left over than just not have enough. So, so the logistics of where do you start the wire, where do you finish the wire, you know, it's pretty simple. Do it a little bit intuitively. And so if it seems like a good idea, starting and finishing the way I did, great. If you want to do it a little bit differently, that's okay too. For example, you could start at the V, or you could start by making a loop. So now I'm going to show you a little variation on how to start the wire. So it's very easy to show on this little symmetrical heart. So what I just did is I started out with a little length of 24 gauge wire, and I made a loop. Granted, it's a very sloppy loop because all I did is just bend the wire in my hands. I should have really bent it over my round nose pliers, and there we go. I just fixed it there. It's now it's really beautiful. And so now we are going to give this a little bit of a bend. So you see how I'm holding it with the chain nose, and so I bent it so that the sides of the loop are fairly symmetrical, and if they're not, we can always course correct. So now the two ends of the wire go through the two lobes of the heart, and we're going to start coiling a little bit on one side, and then we're going to do the other side. And you can probably see exactly where I'm going with this. Okay, you can see the loop. And at this point, we can I'm just going to do one bead because this is going to be very redundant. It's exactly the same. So you pick up a bead, you hold it in place, and again, you just form a little coil right through the center of the heart. And at this point, we would simply add another bead, and there's always a coil in between each bead. And we have a nice little hanging loop. So could we have done that with this heart? Absolutely, we could have done that. Except with this heart, my thought is that perhaps we're hanging it like this. To me, it makes sense that it hangs asymmetrically. Does that make sense? So that's why I didn't make a loop on this one. But when you have a symmetrical heart with two lobes of the same size, it kind of makes sense to have a little loop. Okay, so what do you guys think? Do you have any questions for me so far? So now I'm going to backtrack a little bit. And I probably should have done it in a slightly different order, but that's okay because all these steps are optional, or at least some of them are optional. So, so let me backtrack, and we're just going to uncoil this a little bit. And now I'm just backtracking to Fonda's question, and thank you, Fonda, for asking. So you asked, could we possibly hammer the heart before we start embellishing? And yes, it's a wonderful idea. I personally am a big fan of hammering, and so we're going to do just a little tiny bit of hammering. I don't want to make you guys crazy because I know it's kind of loud. So let me talk a little bit about the hammering. There is really nothing difficult about it. All you do is put your heart on the block and make sure the two sides are not overlapping. In fact, I would probably separate them a little bit before you hammer. You can always bring them back together later. But what you really don't want is this. You do not want an overlap because it's going to, the wire that is going to break in the spot where there's an overlap. So we're going to try to avoid that. And all you do is you use a chasing hammer, a bench block, and it's just this simple. So as I said, I'm not going to do the entire thing, but just enough so that we can have a little chat. So as you see, as soon as I start hammering, my heart starts distorting because as we hammer, we are work hardening the wire. The wire will absolutely distort. So just a tiny bit more. Okay, so the wire will distort. However, it is so very, very easy to just, once you're done hammering, just course correct either by using your hands or by using your pliers. And you know, if you need to do a tiny bit of reshaping, then just go for it. And it's like it never happened, except now we have a little bit of a hammered texture. And sometimes I will do a lot of hammering or little hammering. You don't want to hammer as if your life depends on it, because please don't make it too thin. But you can hammer so that you get this lovely look. Okay, I'll give you a little preview. You get almost, oh, why did I not use this one? I guess I just didn't. But I had this heart that I pre-made, and I could have demoed on this one. So as you can see, when I hammered this, there's a little bit of almost like a calligraphy sort of look happening, where it's a little bit more hammered in some spots, a little bit less in other spots. And what happens is it's almost this look of calligraphy, where in some spots the wire is a little, or appears a little heavier, and others not so much. So you can hammer as much or as little as you want, but by hammering, you're work hardening the piece, and that will make certain that it stays the shape that you create.
Marlene says this is a very good idea and sends a heart.
Oh, thank you so much, Marlene. Okay, ladies. So, should we move on to the next style? Let's do it. All right, ladies. So, the next style I am going to, well, first I guess I'm going to cut some wire. And the next style we are going to make is going to be this one. And it starts out with a loop. So I think I'm just going to call it the loop heart for, you know, for lack of a better name. And I'm going to, let's see, on one of these, I guess I started with 18 or 19 inches, and on the other one, 14. I guess we'll just split the difference and start with about 15 inches. And so I'm going to be making it with 16 gauge wire, but in the kit you have enough 14 gauge wire for 2 hearts and enough 16 gauge wire for 2 hearts, and you just have to decide which wire you're going to use for which hearts. You can do one of each if you want to, like I did. Okay, so here is my length of wire, and this time I'm starting with 15 inches, and so this is very, very simple, you guys. So this is what I'm doing. Can you guys see the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay, so do you see I'm making a big loop, and now I'm going to crisscross the 2 ends of the wire, and just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, until the big loop becomes a little loop. Can you guys see that? Yes, so see how I'm making a loop. And if I wanted to, I mean, this is a nice shaped loop. This is more like this guy right here. But let's say if I wanted to make it more of a long, elegant loop, I could do that just by giving it a little squeeze. So I'm just saying, you are in control of the loop. So now I just made it a skinnier loop. So you can see we have the loop, and it's almost like the lobes of the heart are just starting to form themselves on their own. So we're going to go with the flow and just accentuate those lobes. So you can see we already have a little heart that is starting to shape. This is so simple, you guys. It's like the wire just sort of forms itself into the shape of a heart. So now I'm just going to hold it upside down. Well, to you it's upside down. To me it's right side up. And I'm doing this so that I can cross the wire right here, and holding with my flat nose pliers, I am going to bend the wire on one side, and then I'm going to hold it one more time, and again I'm going to grab it with my flat nose pliers right at wherever it overlaps, and check this out, we have a heart. Does it look like a heart?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so now I can already see that one side of the heart is a little bit longer than the other. So if we wanted to, we could still course correct a little bit. Actually, no, you know what? I was thinking that this side is a little longer, but not really. So, oh, yes, it is. And you know, if you like it a little bit asymmetrical, you can leave it. But did you see I just moved this side a little bit, and I'm just going to rebend it a little. So as long as you're not making very sharp bends, we can rebend. Generally, you know, if we're making, I don't know, if we're repping a stone maybe, pretty much once you bend your wire, you've committed to that bend, and that's it. But with these very soft little bends, it's okay to rebend. You will not break your wire. So this is what it looks like so far. So I can still reshape it a little bit and make it more elegant. I can make it longer or I can make it rounder. But in order to do that, it would really be helpful if I fix this in place. So I'm going to use my 20 gauge wire. You are getting a little length of 20 gauge wire, and that is only for the loop hearts, the heart that I am showing you guys right now. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use my chain nose pliers and bend the wire just around the tip of the chain nose. And I'm trying to make this little, do you see how I have almost like this little squared U-turn? So this U-turn is meant to fit over the two ends of the wire. So ideally, it's about the width of this wire. And the only reason we're doing it this way is because now it's a lot easier to start wrapping the 20 gauge wire around the two wires at the base of our heart. And I want this to be nice and snug. So I will be using my chain nose, and I'm kind of tugging them on my chain nose. But I'm also going to give the wire a little squeeze. And then I'll bring the end right over and give it a little squeeze on the sides. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more squared almost, so that it's really hugging the wire both front to back and also side to side.
Allie says, looks like a little heart wand.
Yeah, it is a little heart wand right now.
Lori says, I really love these.
Thank you so much, Lori. Okay, so you can see I have 3 little coils, and if you must, you can have more than 3, but I like 3. And I am just going to designate one side as the front and one side as the back. So I will cut the excess wire off at what I am going to consider the back of this. And so now I'm almost going to attempt to crimp this onto my 2 wires. And I know it looks a little sloppy right now, but that's okay because we're still going to reshape the heart a little bit. So here we go. And we're just going to tug the 2 wires at the bottom, give the coils a little squeeze, and all of a sudden it looks really nice and neat. And so now we're going to split the 2 wires a little bit at the bottom of the heart. And this is just to make sure that this little coil stays in place. So once we got all of that in place, we are going to reshape the heart. So how do we want to reshape it? Do we want to make it, it's still sliding a little bit, so maybe I'll split these a little bit more. So do we want to make it a little bit rounder? We can just push the 2 sides out and we have a little round heart. There you go. This is almost like, I don't know, I think of this shape as like a country decor. So if you like this shape, great. Let's stay with that. I like this shape. But just in order to explore, because, you know, we're explorers. We are wire explorers, right? So look at this. All I'm doing is just pushing the 2 sides together. Okay, push this one a little too hard. So now we'll course correct on this side. But look, I just reshaped it and now it's kind of a skinnier heart. I can make it a longer heart yet by pushing the sides in. So you can see you're really in charge of shaping this heart. So now, at this point, we can also hammer it, and let's talk about that. So again, I'm just going to move my my work surface and get my block. So if I'm going to hammer this heart, first of all, I'm absolutely going to stay away from the loop. So why am I staying away from the loop? Because the loop overlaps. And if I hammer the loop, I will break the whole thing. So we're not doing that. So if I'm hammering the heart, I can just go like this on the sides. Maybe if I really want to get close to the loop, I can hammer the bottom of the loop if I want to, like this. But I will not hammer where they're overlapped. If I want to get close, I might just use my ball peen. This is the peen side. And I might just go like that. So I went next to the loop, but not right on the overlap. And then I'm definitely not going to hammer over the coil or over the two wires. If I want to later hammer the spirals coming out of the bottom of the heart, I can create the spirals and then hammer them. This is what I was talking about, the calligraphy look. You can see how I made some of it a little more hammered than some of the other parts. Okay, so we're at this point, we're just going to stay away from hammering the entire thing. So now let's get a little bit of 24 gauge wire. And let's talk about strategies as far as embellishing. So on one of them, I started at the bottom, and on the other one, I started at the top. So really, you do it however you want to do it. So if you want, you can start at the bottom like this and just do a couple of coils. You can even overlap if you want to. You can overlap with the heavier 20 gauge wire. You can wrap right over it. Right now I'm being not super careful, a little bit sloppy. But okay, so I'll just do it right on top of the 20 gauge wire. And then make a couple of coils and start adding your beads. So right about here, I would start adding my beads. So let's add one bead just for fun. So here's my one bead, and I'm going to hold it in place with my fingers, nice and tight, and then create a coil and a half, and we're ready to add another bead. So this is one approach to this. And then another approach would be if we start at the top. And if we start at the top, we can actually do exactly the same thing we did for that symmetrical heart, where we bend our wire in half. Either way, we're going to start in the center of our wire. And you can see I'm not squeezing with my round nose. If I were to squeeze the wire with my round nose, it would simply break. So I'm actually using my round nose just as a mandrel, okay? And so now I can start in the very same way. So you see how I just designated my loop by bending the two sides at the same time, and now I am going to, actually, you know what, I'll show you a third way yet to do it, because you already saw the loop, right? So if we're making a loop, we would just, there's my loop, and at this point I would just start coiling in one direction with one end of the wire and in the opposite direction with the other end of the wire. However, in the spirit of having lots and lots of options, I'm going to give you one option yet. You can also start at this part of the loop. And this is a really easy way to start. So all you do is, again, you just fold your wire in half and you create a little coil right there. Can you guys see my little coil right around the loop? And then both sides of the wire will just come out on top like this. I'm just going to bring them to the same side like this. Okay, and now we can start coiling, and I will do that with both ends. And again, this is a good time to just start adding our beads, just as before. So it's always the same pattern to add your beads. So just one more time. So you have three different options here. You can start at the bottom, and you can start at the top, either by making a loop or by going around this loop. And then you start your beading pattern, but not both, definitely not both. And then if you don't want to start with a really long piece of wire, you could start by coiling around one side and just go one side, and then you can do the same thing on the other side. And whenever you're ready to finish your coiling, so once we have coiled all of our beads, all we have to do is just find a good spot. Very intuitively, we're pretending that we have just coiled the whole thing, and you cut your excess wire off, and then with your chain nose pliers, you give it a nice squeeze by rotating the pliers in the direction of the coiling. You see how I'm going in the same direction. And so I'm not really pinching like this. Let's do it one more time, shall we? So you create however many coils you create. I would recommend at least 3. And then you cut your wire off. And I try to hide my ends. So in this case, there's not really a great place to hide the end, but if you coil it toward the inside of the heart, it's better than it's sticking towards the outside of the heart. And then, of course, we don't really want this little end to stick out at all. Can you guys see that it's sticking out right now? Can you see that little end? And I left just enough wire where it's just enough to coil towards the inside of the heart. So again, I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers and go like this in the direction in which I was coiling earlier. And this way you will get this really nice seamless end. So what do you guys think? Do you have any questions for me? Do you have questions about either design? Let's revisit both designs right now. And then we'll add a little bobble, and then we're done. So on the loop hearts, as opposed to the V hearts, I like adding a little bobble. And you know, you could even add a little bobble at the bottom of this one, or I could have added an extra bead at the bottom of this one, but I didn't. So there are just so many different options. Oh wait, we're not quite done yet. We haven't made the spirals just yet. So let's go back.
Kathy K says, love it.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathy. And I'm sorry, I meant to go over the spirals before I did the coiling on this one, but you know, it's sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
Althea says, these hearts are so pretty.
Thank you so much, Althea. So on these hearts, I kind of like my coils to be a little asymmetrical, or my spirals rather, to be a little asymmetrical. So this is what I'll do. I will start a loop, and whenever I want a nice, tight, round spiral, I will cut off the very end of the wire. And I was holding my hand over the end of the wire so that I don't shoot Tony in the eye with a little wire end, because that would not be good. So I would really recommend that you do the same. So always hold your hand over the wire as you're cutting off those little pieces off. So this time I am not making an open spiral. I'm making maybe just a slightly open spiral. So we don't really have the option of holding on to the center of the spiral. I'm doing something a little similar to this. Oh, okay, so this is upside down. This is right side up. So I'm doing, oh my God, and I just launched it. I guess I may be a little bit too exuberant today.
Hearts are flying.
Yes. Okay, so when I make a spiral that is not all that open in the center, I use my flat nose pliers, and I like to rock it back and forth like this, because that gives me control. Otherwise, if you're working with heavier wire and you're just trying to do it without rocking, you will find that it's a little challenging. I think I'm also going to reshape this wire and make it a little straighter, and do the same with the other end. So the other end is a little bit longer, and that is why I left it for something like this. Something that's going to be a little bit more, zigzag-like, a little more wavy. Although I will tell you that this side and this side actually start out very similarly in length. I don't remember if they were exactly identical, but they were very similar. So on one of these hearts, my bottom spiral is facing away from this one. On this one, it's facing in the same direction. So really, whichever way you like best. So you can see the wire is pretty soft. I'm just simply shaping it with my fingers. And my next spiral is going to be not quite so many coils. So I'm not actually going to need all of this. I'm going to end up cutting off some of it. So let's start again with a little loop. And this time I am not starting at the very, very end, because again, I'm not using the entire thing. So I made my loop, and now I'm going to cut off everything that is not rounded. So you can see what I'm left with is entirely rounded, and I'm going to go back into the spiral with my chain nose pliers, and just because it's a little bit easier to grip with the chain nose. And then I'm going to do the rest with my flat nose, and this time Again, I'm going to rock it back and forth a little bit like this because it gives me control. And this way I can create a slightly open spiral. So I don't really like how this is just not curvy enough for me. So perhaps I am, and you know, if I would have grabbed my my bail making pliers, I would have used my bail making pliers for that, but I forgot to grab my bail making pliers. So no worries, I just did it with my fingers because again, this is very soft wire until we hammer it. Once we hammer the wire, it's no longer soft. So it starts out as dead soft, and then once we hammer it, it really holds its shape. So if there's anything you're changing about it, like I'm opening up this little spiral a little bit just because, just to reshape it, make it a little prettier. I like this shape. So now, if I were to hammer it, I would make it very, very hard and it would never bend again. So in the meantime, let's just talk a little bit about hammering again. So if I'm going to hammer this part, I'm only going to go up to this little coil. So I'm not going to coil over the coil. I'm not going to hammer over the coil. I know I'm being really redundant, but I just don't want you to break your wire. So please stay away from this coil as you hammer. And once you hammer, I just want to show you how very, very hard this wire is at this point. Just look at this. Can you guys see that? It's not bending. I mean, yes, if I really were to force it, I could, but under any normal circumstances, it will not bend.
Lori says, I'm ready to go to my beading area to see if I have wire to try this. I really love these hearts.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Kathy K says, a rocking and a rolling.
Oh, yay. Yes, as you make those spirals, just remember the rocking and the rolling. Exactly. Okay, ladies, so what do you think? Is this easy? Do you have any questions for me? Are you ready to go and just make a whole bunch of hearts? We have the kit in the Etsy shop. It's ready to be ordered, and you have plenty of time before Valentine's Day. So, this is Valentine's Heart Suncatcher Kit, and it makes 4. And you can shape them however you decide. If you have your favorite shape, then you can just make them all like that. Okay, my friends, so in the meantime, I have some previews for you. So tomorrow, I'm cordially inviting you to join me for my greatest hits shopping event. As you know, every Friday I have been doing these shopping events. They're great fun. And tomorrow we're going to be revisiting the greatest hits of 2024. So again, this is tomorrow, Friday, January 10th, on the Eclectica beads page at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I don't have any samples to show you because there are just so many awesome things like copper edge turquoise, and you guys wanted sets, so I have pearl sets, I have gemstone sets, I have some awesome focals, so you'll just have to join me. And then next Thursday, that's January 16th, I have the Love Garnets pendant, or not pendant, bracelet as I'm putting it on my wrist. It's definitely not a pendant. So this is, again, in the spirit of Valentine's Day coming up. I am going to be making this bracelet with a cute little pave button. And so this is next Thursday. Oh, and we forgot. Oh my goodness. I was actually going, I guess I'll have to show you tomorrow. We have an awesome trunk show coming up, but we'll just do the big reveal tomorrow. Okay, ladies, and I feel like that's about it.
Fonda says easy peasy.
Yay! Thank you so much, Fonda.
Cheryl says I picked up 2 kits. They'll make great gifts. Thank you.
Woohoo! Thank you, Cheryl.
Yolanda says hello, joining late. Watching on the fires.
Oh, I know. The fires are just horrific. I know. I'm so sad for everybody in California. That is just such a sad, sad thing.
Yolanda adds, so very cute. I love the hearts.
Thank you so much, Yolanda.
Allie says looks like fun.
Yay! Thank you, Allie.
And she says just like the beautiful necklace class that you had last year.
Trying to remember the necklace class. Was it a heart class?
I don't know.
I'm guessing it was a heart, but I don't know. Tell me more.
Maya says you made it look so easy. I just made 2 wonkiest hearts ever.
Oh, you mean like while you were watching,
Yeah,
Maya?
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Remember from the kit from last year.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yay. I'm glad you're having fun with this. It's okay. If they're a little wonky, you saw how I course corrected, right?
Lori says thank you so much, Irina and Tony.
Thank you so much, Lori.
And Allie says no, it was the Santa Fe swirl, I think.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I'm totally blanking. But I'm so glad you remember, Allie and Maya. Stick with it. Don't give up. It's okay if your hearts are a little wonky. It's okay. Because again, you can course correct, you can reshape. You saw how I pulled a little here, I pulled a little, or pushed a little there, and all of a sudden your heart is just sings, right? Or maybe dances, who knows? Sometimes my hearts dance. So anyway, thank you so much, ladies. I had a blast sharing this with you. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. In the meantime, I will see you tomorrow for the shopping event at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful and creative evening.